It's Waxing Lyrical Baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague, TalkSport's own, my favourite colour commentator on the NFL on the radio. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Very, very strict third man in the booth.
That's still colour commentary, though, right? Surely.
You may want to, educate some people who may not know what the hell you're talking about.
So, over the weekend, Neil and I were in Munich to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play the Seattle Seahawks. And Neil was asked by TalkSport host and friend Will Gavin to join him while Neil was doing work for Gridiron on the radio show that Will was hosting, and a small segment turned into the whole of the fourth quarter with Neil as the third man. Well, you were the second man because Phoebe was doing the colour, so you were the third person in the booth, right?
Third person in the booth. Will, it was the first time he's ever called an NFL game commentary.
Yes.
He was very good. He was very definitely cut from the Kevin Harlan cloth.
Love that.
Yes, when Marcus Goodwin scored a touchdown, I honestly, I think he actually scared Phoebe because of how high, how big he got. It was phenomenal to see commentators at work at close quarters. Obviously, two people. There's the play, expert. What did you see? So from my part, it was just trying to find a gap in the commentary where I could make a smart-ass comment or two. I think I succeeded. I managed to make a Michael Jackson pun. So ultimately, that's all that matters. It was a phenomenal experience. It was something of a dream come true. So yeah, I can officially, probably, die now. So
okay, let's not. Let's get on with the show, though. Let's get on with the main event. So we're going to talk Munich. We're then going to ask how we fix some franchises in the AFC. Then we've got fancy darlings and losers, and obviously fancy predictions bound to go wrong. But let's continue the chat on Munich and let's get into the main event.
Time now for the main event.
So as we said, we were in Munich over the weekend. Neil had a press pass and went to watch Seattle versus Tampa. I guess we arrived Saturday morning, left Monday morning, some of us earlier than others on Monday morning. But Neil, how was it, and what would you take from the NFL Germany or NFL Munich experience?
Well, one thing, if we can actually just start with yourself, because obviously you were in our plan before I was able to, beg, steal, and borrow an official accreditation, was we were going to, go to a bar and watch the game, just to be in amongst the environment.
Of course.
Where you were, the bar you were watching it in, what was it made up? Was it was it mostly locals? Was it actually busy? How was that?
Not that we're sponsored. We were in a bar called Kennedy's, which had been recommended as one of the best places to watch sport in Munich. So there's me, Neil, and our friend Tony Esposti. Me and Tony were in the bar. They had multiple TVs and did multiple different things. We were in there from about midday. The game was 3:30. We watched multiple different sports up until when the NFL started. The place was completely full, so all the tables were booked. So we sat down until 3 o'clock and then had to stand because all the other tables were gone from 3 until 8. Really good experience. Most of the people there early were probably American / people who were going to the game. Then there was a lot of people turned up later, more German and English people, I would guess, who came later to watch the game. We watched it on The Zone, which is where German NFL is, I believe. So yeah, we watched with German comms, which is pretty cool because we learned that a lot of the parlances are still in English, although they say everything else in German, and then randomly say things like just weird parlances around red zone possessions and turnovers, which surely will have German words, but they don't say them in German, they say them in English. You then met us there a bit later on, but yeah, we were there from 12 until about 10, 11 o'clock at night, I guess.
See, I made my way to the ground to soak up the colour, as it were. I made my way there at 11 o'clock because the could only collect your credentials from 11:30. So when I arrived at the fan park, there's a station, literally, you get off, you cross a bridge, and you walk to the Allianz Arena. There's a big, massive area that they use as a fan park. I presume they use this for the Bundesliga and any other events there. It was absolutely effing rammed. This was at 11:20 for a game that was not going to kick off till 3:30. For a game you couldn't get into the ground until 1:30. It was absolutely rammed. Of course, the music that was playing at the fan park, the first song that played as soon as I got there was Cotton Eye Joe.
Of course it was.
But anyway, of course it was. But the atmosphere inside the stadium was incredible. This wasn't, put this way, there are still lazy comments made by people that, the English they love their kicking game. Yeah, fuck off. Seriously, it's been 15 years now. Fuck off. They never seem to labour this at the Germans. So you couldn't make that claim of, the English people that have paid all this money to come and sit at Wembley and watch a game that don't know what they're doing. No. Could never label it this. They were into it. It was just the start of it. When Tom Brady came out during warm-ups, the whole place erupted. When Pete Carroll came out, the whole place erupted. During the game, whenever there was a break in play, like a timeout or end of a quarter or whatnot, whatever song was playing, the crowd was singing along to. None more breathtakingly than during the fourth quarter when they started singing Country Road, and everyone had their phones out with the cameras. And I was like, this is the gap in play of the fourth quarter of a game that's still on the line. But as soon as the whistle went, the phones went down and they were glued to the game. There was still, I estimate, 20,000 fans in there an hour after the game had finished, singing and dancing. It was incredible. They literally, whatever was thrown at them, the German public bought in. I'm not saying it was a test, but the good people of Germany, because it was mostly Germans, I feared it would be a British takeover. It was not. There was, I would say, majority of people around me that I spoke to as well were Germans, and they were loving every single minute.
So Neil, you went to the first NFL game at Wembley, and yes, you obviously went to this first game in Germany. Were there similarities between the two events?
I think that maybe Munich has benefited from the growing pains, or not the Wembley fan, because correct me if I'm wrong. That first game, obviously, the weather was shite.
Yeah.
That first game, but don't think there was anything on. We went for a bevy in, I think it was Carnaby Street. It might have been somewhere before we got the tube in. This, as I say, it had the fan park. It had everything going on. It was, it was different in that sense because I think it was a bit more organised. They knew what they could do, and they knew what they probably didn't need to do.
One thing that has been noted by many people watching the game that was similar from the first game and similar from the first multiple games at Wembley is that grass and sporting events are different depending on the sporting event. A lot of people slipping over. It seemed slower on the ground. The Allianz Arena's got wonderful facilities and is one of the greatest soccer arenas. But people were concerned that it wasn't necessarily great for NFL underfoot.
I did notice, because, the professional I am, in pre-match warm-ups, I noticed there were a few people slipping and sliding, and I did make mention of it to someone, saying, I think, to be honest, I was actually speaking to someone as we were coming through the press area, and I saw how much grass that the players had left, and I said, it's cutting up, it's noticeable, and this shows you how prepared Mr. Gavin was, that Bayern played the week before. Mm-hmm. They do not have a game now for 2 months.
Yeah, they don't play until January the 20th. Because not only do they have the World Cup, Germany have a winter break after the World Cup, so they have a 3-week break after the World Cup as well, so they're not back playing until January the 20th.
So they have essentially 2 weeks for that pitch to recover and bed in. What happens next year when Munich or Frankfurt or Cologne or wherever these countries are, or cities, sorry, what happens when they play an NFL game on the Sunday and the home team has a game the next week? That's something that will need to be considered, because you could tell just looking, obviously the hashes in the middle, they were pretty beat up, and it was noticeable at half-time how much work was getting done to try and make it game-worthy. So I'm not saying it was a disgraceful pitch. Certainly that first Wembley game in 2007, pouring down rain, the different type of physicality of the sport obviously affected it, and then there was the Horse of the Year show the next day or whatever it was, and the FA apparently were not happy. Well, screw you wasted your time building the damn stadium. It's not the NFL's fault. So I don't think it helped that then about 3 weeks later England got beat by Croatia. That was the McLaren Wally with the brolly, wasn't it? Sometime after that, I believe. Anyway, what I would say is, obviously in the UK, most of the games have been at Wembley, so there's usually a gap between any events to allow that kind of situation to occur. At Tottenham, they have a completely different pitch that they bring in and out, and again, Americans have noticed that it's much faster. So yes, it's something that they'll probably need to bear in mind. You talked about it, Neil. This is not a one-off situation. It sounds like they're going to get one, and if you speak to certain people who we know and are close to sources, they could have 2 games next year, and one of them might include Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
In which case, I'll just tell you now, don't bother asking me if I've got a ticket, because I'm not going to get one unless I can finagle another press pass. But
as we said, 3 million people into 60,000 seater stadium. You would assume maybe not 3 million people would try again, but you would get similar high numbers. So the NFL absolutely will continue this process going forward, and the question becomes, do they try and dip their toes in other European countries which aren't necessarily as NFL heavy as we believe Germany to be, and we found out Germany is, but the sooner they try and get it in Paris or Barcelona, I assume we're steps away from some kind of NFL Europe division.
Well, it's one of those. If there's a way to make money, the NFL will find it.
Yeah.
They are adept at tapping revenue streams, so we wait and see. Obviously, we had the one Wembley game for, I think it was 4 years, and then they started doing it with 2. We've had 3. Eventually, it's going to come down to we still need to incentivise the fact that these teams are giving up home games, and that potentially is going to piss off their fan base or whatnot, and how long that'll last, I don't know. It's suffice to say, if I can just say my final word on it, it was a memorable experience. I would consider it more memorable for the fans and the city, especially. I think it's more. I think it's hit a more of an emotional chord than that Wembley game did in 2007, because I think they had to wait a lot longer for it, despite the fact that they showed a greater appetite for NFL, considering how long NFL Europe lasted in Germany. And literally, they went from, essentially, it was just NFL Germany, to then, as soon as NFL Europe stopped, England got a game. And it took 15 years for Germany to get one. So it was a phenomenal experience. I'm honoured to have been part of it. And I can't thank Ollie Connolly, Will, Gavin, Phoebe Schechter, and Tom Scholes. I can't thank them enough for including me and making me a part of this phenomenal event. Yes, Parker, I hear you.
Fantastic. Let's get on with the next section.
Time now for the main event.
So I've been looking, there's a lot of teams that are done, let's be frank, and we need to understand what they need to do to fix their franchises going forward. So I started looking and I think, well, could we do, which team should we pick? And I thought there's quite a few teams in the AFC So what I'm going to project is we've got 5 AFC teams. We're going to look at them this week. Do they just need minor tweaks, or are we talking a full blow-up situation? And what you define as full blow-up is up to you. So let us start in the AFC North, and let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We do know that the Steelers, one thing they value more than anything, it's loyalty. This is why they've had 3 head coaches in the last 50 years. They're probably going to finish this season under 500 for the first time in the Mike Tomlin era. That's not going to end it for him. They invested a first-round pick in a quarterback for the first time since Ben Roethlisberger in 2004. They're not going to panic. They know there's pieces. They know that this roster needs work. I think this is a retooling that they require. But personally, I don't see an awful lot of change in terms. They're going to fire Matt Canada because this offense is garbage. So they need to do something to try and fit Kenny Pickett's skill set. I don't know what that is particularly, but I do know that it's not what Matt Canada's running. So there'll be that change. The defense is still has playmakers, which, as we said, it's all you really need. This team can pull wide receivers out of its arse in the draft. It's phenomenal the way they can do it. So I just think they need to be better on personnel than they've been in recent years. But that'll start with a new offensive coordinator. That's the only real change I could see them making. Yeah,
I mean, the Matt Canada decision is pretty straightforward, right? He is not very good at his job. I think the last couple of years, I think he had 2 years with Ben, right? And the last couple of years, the assumption was that, well, Canada can't run what he wants because of Ben Roethlisberger. And maybe that was true. But if he's running what he wants now, it's not very good. So maybe, he shouldn't be running it anyway. As you said, this isn't a Mike Tomlin gets fired situation. But I do think it's a time to reflect on the fact that one of the major reasons that this has gone well for the past 15 years is because you've had a Hall of Fame quarterback. And now you need to think, how do we do this if we haven't got one? So, and a lot of teams have to do that. Some teams they just seem to drop out the sky and land on the team and you're fine again. But I don't think Kenny Pickett is that guy. Can he be a serviceable NFL quarterback? It's to be determined. But to get him serviceable NFL quarterback, he needs a competent offensive coordinator, and right now they don't have one. Defense is fine, if not good. It makes lots of plays and has lots of talent. But I think there's a major overhaul of the offense that needs to happen, and until that happens, I can't see the team going anywhere.
Hopefully, and I'm not just saying this because, I know he's been hurt, but this team was basically waving its wang out the window, screaming, we're taking a running back in the first round in 2021 and we don't care who knows. Hopefully, what has happened in the last 2 years since that has shown you don't need to do that because your line's trash and your first round running back is getting outperformed by a 7th rounder. So hopefully, this team takes that approach of, look, I'm not saying you don't need running backs in your offense, you probably do. You don't spend that type of capital on them when you have so many other glaring weaknesses.
Next team, the Cleveland Browns. I'll go first. The assumption is the offense has been competent. They have an excellent running back and Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. They have a quarterback coming back next week, I think, who won't have played in over a year and a half. But if he is as good as he was prior to that, they will be fine on offense. Joe Woods is the defensive coordinator there. And they have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. And they can't stop anyone. So, for me, it's not a full blow-up situation in Cleveland. It is fire a defensive coordinator and get someone who understands personnel better. The personnel they have better and get a better scheme to make use of what is some extremely talented defensive players.
Yeah, Woods and Canada are the front runners for the 2022. What exactly is it you say you do here award? Their defense has been awful. As I say, the offense was always going to be, this could be better, but this is the best we've got at the moment. It was always going to be that. But, even if they had their quarterback, they were still going to run the ball. They still would have put the ball in, Nick Chubb's belly 20 times a game, because that's only sensible when he's your best player. The playmakers they have on defense have not been able to make enough plays because of scheme, and because their offense hasn't been anything more than efficient. I could foresee Stefanski getting the boot. I don't think it's likely, but there's always one team where you're like, I didn't see that happening. When a head coach gets fired. This is not a stable, functional franchise, and hasn't been since they were reborn in 1999. We're seeing a few owners becoming more meddlesome in recent weeks. You just get the feeling that, maybe Haslam is like, no one said my name for weeks, I need to do something. You just worry about that, because they've only really had the one great year under Stefanski. They had one there, they were like, and then this one's been, so
this one's bleh, but I guess they haven't been able to play their franchise quarterback, which they shouldn't have picked in the first place, and it's technically their fault. But yeah, Jimmy Haslam strikes me as a man who doesn't like to be quiet and not in the headlines for long. So I guess there could be a situation where Stefanski is a little hot under the collar, but I don't see him being fired this season. But if they start badly next season, that may be happening faster than many expect.
If their quarterback comes back and they win 3 games before the end of the season, it probably saves him. Because you can probably say, this was the offense I wanted to run. Let's just invest in the offensive line over the off-season, bring in the new DC. So,
next team, Neil, how do you fix the Jacksonville Jaguars?
They just need to keep doing what they started doing this off-season. Obviously, having Doug Peterson there and his coaching staff, why he's so attached to Press Taylor, I don't know, but I digress. They need to keep putting pieces in place around Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence has shown me more than... So, we're still... the jury's still out on him. I thought he'd turned the corner at the start of the season, which is why I wrote about him for Gridiron. And then, when I did, he went back to the urban ways. They just, he's coaxing some good production out of Christian Kirk. But if he's your number one, that's where your problem is. The offensive line, they need to continue, obviously, investing in that and protecting Trevor Lawrence. They seem to have found something in Travis Etienne. Okay, don't stop there. Depending on where they could be picking, there's going to be some intriguing wide receivers in this draft. They need to take one. They don't have a great track record of drafting wide receivers. Allen Robinson was good, but only really had the 1 year. Marquise Lee was meh. Justin Blackman, whatever happened to that guy? So
he caught that pass against Texas for Texas Tech, and we all went wild, and then it all fell down.
He was Oklahoma, Justin Blackman.
Oklahoma State. He was.
You're thinking Crabtree.
Yeah, Oklahoma State was the pass. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So they just need to. I mean, the problem they've got is their cap situation in 2023 doesn't look great. Doug Peterson has been in a situation in the past where the cap didn't look great. Yeah, Howie Roseman is a wizard. Trent Baalke is not. So that's an obvious handicap. But they need to do what the Bills did with Josh Allen. Keep throwing resources at him to find out if he truly is the guy. Because next year is his 3rd year. They've got to get through to the end of that, and then they need to start making decisions. If he's not the Messiah, but is in fact just a very naughty boy, it's not going to last.
Excellent reference. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones Jr., Jamel Agnew, Tim Jones, Kendrick Pryor. That is not how you make elite quarterbacks good.
No.
It's not how it works. That is a 2 and a load of 3s and 4s. There absolutely is not a 1 on that list. Now, is there a possibility that Calvin Ridley comes back from suspension and is a 1? Possible. we always argued, though, Neil, that he was a 1.5 anyway, and in theory he was always better when Julio was on the field. It's fine. So then you need to go and get someone. You need to find someone, because you've done, by luck or by good management, good things around the defense. You picked 2 what seems like elite starters this year. You have Trevor Lawrence. You picked up Brandon Scherf. You've got some good offensive linemen. Still needs to improve. You've got Etienne, who you can, run into the ground, get somebody else. That's fine. You got to get weapons. You've got to get weapons. If you want to know what you think of this quarterback, then you need to give him the right tools. It's like, we're not going to talk the NFC, but if you talk about the New York Giants, how do they have a flipping clue whether Daniel Jones can run Brian Dable's offense when his best wide receiver is me or you? It's not going to work. So they need to do something about that.
This is the thing, as you say, with Calvin Ridley, he was always, in my opinion, a very, very effective Robin to Julio's Batman. So now Batman isn't there, so do we still have Robin, or does he become Nightwing? Because he's certainly not going to be Batman.
Houston Texans, full done blown them up, right? There's not much. They're literally hours away from beating Washington in one of the great behave yourself Washington performances of all time. But there's no real talent on this team, and they could go in a multitude of different directions. But I believe they should just start by drafting the best quarterback available with the first overall pick.
The Jeff Saturday saga with the Indianapolis Colts is the best thing that's happened to the Houston Texans, because now they can finally appoint Josh McCown, which is what they've wanted to do the last 2 years, but have been talked out over the last minute of, this would be stupid. What are you doing? Now they can.
But can I ask a question on that? Who wanted to hire Josh McCown? Because if it was Jack Easterby, he's no longer in the building. Are we saying that Nick Caserio wanted Josh McCown?
I honestly don't know who's calling the shots. I don't know. I don't officially know if Jack Easterby's actually left. He's just literally, he went out for coffee, hasn't come back yet, but they just said he's left. No, it's like, man joined, there was a few years ago, there was a headline of a man who was reported missing turned up 8 hours later. So he went to work. I don't know. The Houston Texans should be relegated. We should go back to 31 teams, because whatever they do, they're going to do it wrong. Their roster is full of so many holes at various levels. This is a multi-year rebuild if you get competency doing the rebuild, and they're not going to get competency because it would be a departure.
Final team, Neil. The Denver Broncos. What do you do if you're the Denver Broncos?
You hope that Doc Emmett Brown bangs his head and comes up with the concept of the flux capacitor. You go back a year and you don't hire this clown and you don't trade for this quarterback. The only thing they can do is put one of those decisions right, and that would mean firing Hackett. And again, then they look at themselves and say, how many head coaches is it going to take? Lest we forget, and I know this is nitpicking, but I love this point, the Broncos have never drafted an efficient quarterback themselves. They've always gone down the, we'll just get someone else's. It doesn't work. We pick the guy. Well, this isn't working. This is, and it's Russell Wilson is trying his best. I genuinely do believe that. I don't think he's half-arsing it. I don't think he feels trapped. I think he legitimately is giving his all, but it's not there. This offense is putrid. And again, if you're a head coach from one side of the ball or the other, you're not been brought in as the CEO head coach, as it were. If your particular bailiwick is offense or defense, and that side of your team stinks, that comes back on you eventually. Usually you get a bit of a grace period if the other side of the field can buy you some time. Tell the people listening your stat about the Denver Broncos scoring points this season. The
Denver Broncos are 3-6. if the Denver Broncos would have scored more than 18 points by the end of regulation in every single game, they'd be 8-1. If that doesn't
2022.
Yeah. So whatever you're doing on defense, please continue it. Thank you, defensive coordinator. You're a keeper. Head coach, offensive coordinator, as you quite rightly point out, Neil, what is it exactly you say you do here? It's not that, because you're not here anymore. Whether anyone likes it or not, and if I assume most people in Denver don't like it, Russell Wilson is their quarterback for a minimum of 3 more years. Maybe 2, if you're willing to take that massive cap hit eventually. So, you then need to do something that you don't want to do. And that is ask Russell Wilson who he believes should be the head coach or offensive coordinator of his team. You could ignore Russell Wilson and just hire the best offensive mind you can. But if they don't work, we know what happens this year happens again. So you need someone with at least some synergy. Because no one's asking this team to be the Miami Dolphins. Someone's asking them to be competent on offense. Competent on offense. Right now they are not. They got beat by the Tennessee Titans, who had no players playing last week. It's an embarrassment. So they need to do something. They need to do something fast, and it has to be everything to do with offense and making Russell Wilson work. Because you haven't got a flux capacitor, you've made the Russell Wilson bed. You've got to lie in it with that crazy water. That's it, Neil. Let's get on with the fancy portion of the show.
Hello, darling.
It's Fancy Darlings, obviously. Last week, Neil was 0-2, 7-13 overall, as I gave him back his Cincinnati Bengals win from the week before. He picked Jimmy G. Jimmy G was quarterback 17, 15.9 points for the 49ers. Neil, Jimmy G didn't throw any touchdowns this week. That's the 12th such game since he took over since he's been the starter for the San Francisco 49ers. Do you know what his record is in those 12 games?
It's bad for fantasy. It's great for real life. I believe he's 10-2.
He's 10-2. The definition of stay over there, Jimmy, and don't burn anything. You also picked the Oakland Raiders because they were playing Jeff Saturday, a guy who was on Get Up the week before, and some other dude who no one had ever heard of. They got 0 points and were the worst defense in the league. They need to be sent to the moon. They're not on my How to Fix the Franchises AFC edition because they should be sent to the moon.
In my defence, I thought the organisational decision had been made that Sam Ehlinger was the quarterback, but from now to the end of the season. So all it took was Jeff Saturday to come in and say, I'm not starting this clown. There's players out here who are going to get hurt, trying to protect him. I need to have an actual quarterback. So I'm still not saying that, I'd be hard-pressed to say that they would have been as bad if they'd gone up against Sam Ehlinger because he's not an NFL quarterback. But I got that one.
Okay, Neil, who's your first fancy darling this week?
First fancy darling this week is Daniel Jones of the New York Football Giants. He's had a quietly efficient season without being amazing, and this also goes to real life as well. But it's he's had moments. He's fourth among all quarterbacks in rushing yards, which he's always had that capability to do. And he has a great matchup this week against the Detroit Lions, who I think are fourth in fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks and fourth in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. So if he is part of the run game, and it sounds fairly certain that he probably is, I think he'll be better than quarterback 15 this week.
I'm just going to give everyone a bit of breaking news because Neil mentioned Detroit. It seems like, and you're probably fixing fancy teams and whatever right now, it seems like, based on what we're hearing, that Buffalo versus the Browns won't be in the Thunder Snow 6 foot. It will be in Detroit, indoors in Ford Field. So, I'm not saying you were going to pick... I don't know what you were picking for Fancy Loser, but if it was anyone, because they were playing in the snow, you may need to change it. Neil, first of all, before we get to Fancy Loser, who is your second Fancy Darling?
Well, before we go to that, Buffalo are building a multi-billion-dollar stadium in Buffalo to replace Ralph Wilson, where it's called now, but they're not putting it in a dome. You're moving a stadium in your city because of snow. You want to build a new one that does not have a dome. Do not ask for $1 of public money.
Correct.
This is ludicrous.
It is.
My second Fancy Darling, now I think he was nicked up early in the week. I hope he does play because he was on the piece I wrote for Rotoworld and also the advice I gave other people. It's Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet went the entire 2021 season without scoring a single touchdown. He has 5 in his last 3. The Bears offense, I'm not saying it's humming, but it's certainly showing more signs of life than it did a few weeks ago because they are taking advantage of the skill sets, the players they have. They've realised that if your system doesn't fit your players, you change your fucking system, not your players. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Falcons have only allowed 1 tight end touchdown reception this season, so they keep these boys out of the paint. They have however, allowed the third most receptions and receiving yards. So anything between the one and the other one, they're not very good. So if Kmet can do a bit of damage and if he can break the wall and get in, then I think he's a decent streaming option at tight end this week, assuming he plays, of course.
Get your best players the ball, NFL. Coaches beware. Justin Fields is so much fun to watch. I hope it continues. But let's hope he throws a bit better too. It's still all to work for, but someone's gone, hey, that dude can run. Yeah, he can. Let's get on with a Fancy Loser. Last week, Neil got a little bit too close to the sun. Neil, in his infinite wisdom, thought he'd be Billy Big Balls, as it's known in the trade, and say that Travis Kelce wouldn't have a good game. Travis Kelce had 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown and was tight end 2. So that's a big fat stinking loss. Neil is 4 and 6 overall. Neil, who is your loser this week?
As I say, I apologise last week. That was just me being far too clever, and that was me looking saying, but the stats say, yeah, stuff your stats, you're wrong. It's ironic to an extent that you mentioned about not want to have a loser from the game that was now going to be played in Detroit. My loser actually plays for Detroit. It's DeAndre Swift. We cannot trust this man at the moment. I'm just trying to pull up the stats. If my bloody machine will actually let me, but it doesn't look like it will. Yeah, DeAndre Swift. A lot of us probably came in this season, and when I say a lot of us, I speak for myself. He was my first running back. The first running back I took because I thought that the offense was going to be fun, and I like fun. He started off great. It's not panned out well. I know he's dealt with injuries, but I can't shake the feeling that the Lions just don't love him because of what they say about him. If you actually look at his game log, I say he's only played 6 games this season. He had 15 carries for 144 yards in the opener and 1 rushing touchdown, 3 receptions for 31 yards. The most carries he's had in the game since then has been 7. The most rushing yards he's had in the game since then is 56. He hasn't only scored 1 rushing touchdown on the ground, and he has only had 1 game with more than 3 receptions and 1 game with more than 40 yards. His last 2 games, he has played a combined 29 snaps. They say, we want to get him more involved. You don't. Clearly you don't, or you would. So they're playing the New York Giants, as I've already mentioned. The Giants have been quite good against fancy running backs this season because the Giants, for some reason, Brian Daboll, there's something about him that he's got them all clicking. So I don't see how you can trust DeAndre Swift. At the moment as well, I'm at the point there. if he does score a touchdown, I just don't think it'll be enough, because I don't think he's going to get enough work that the touchdown will make a good day a great one. At the moment, I'd be happy to let him go off on my bench rather than chance him going off in my flex running back 3.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic stuff, Neil. Let us get on with fancy predictions bound to go wrong. Last week, 0-2, 2-16 overall. I thought that Pat Fryermuth would be tight end 1. He was tight end 16. Four catches for 36 yards, only 7.6 points. That's a loss. Neil said that Saquon Barkley would have over 200 yards with 50 yards receiving. He had 152 yards and 8 yards receiving, so valiant, yet not a winner. Neil, what's your fancy prediction for this week?
My fancy prediction for this week, and this is quite bold and crazy given how it has gone, but I'm going to say that Justin Herbert will finish as the QB1 in fantasy this week, because he'll have to. Otherwise, they could get absolutely destroyed by the Chiefs.
I love this, Neil, as my prediction is in same game. The Chiefs are playing the Chargers, obviously, as Neil has highlighted. What are the Chargers not good at, Neil? That's right, stopping the run. That is why now new leader in the clubhouse in the running back stakes in Kansas City, Isaiah Pacheco, will be a top 3 running back in fantasy this week, because Andy's going to do that classic thing where he's just like, today we're just going to run loads and keep the ball so Justin Herbert doesn't get it.
Friend of the pod, Matt Kelly, at one point early in the season, described their former first-round running back as Clyde Edward-Hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is an original of his, but I've definitely seen him tweet it out. Their current lead running back, he is given the nickname Eye Patch.
Love it. Having it. So Eye Patch is going to be running back 3 this week. It's going to be epic.
What time? They're Sunday Night Football, aren't they?
Sunday Night Football, yes.
So I'm not going to get a chance to add pictures of someone in an eye patch to my Jim Robinson photo gallery when he scores a touchdown.
I don't think so. Unfortunately not. We mean, if you want to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning, that's good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
No.
Exactly. I mean, I'm assuming both of us watched the NFC's battle on Monday Night Football the day after. I know I did.
I've not watched it. Burn the tape.
I mean, we basically helped you win the Super Bowl, Neil. You know, we took all the pressure off, according to AJ Brown, so you're welcome.
Well, in defence of AJ's comments, the Eagles...
I think he's right, by the way.
Yeah, the Eagles have been 8-1 5 times in their history before this season. NFL champions, NFL champions, NFC champions, NFC champions, Super Bowl champions.
Well, there you go, Neil. He knows his stuff. He knows his onions. Neil,
first round playoff loss.
We'll find out. Neil, before we're back next week, where can people catch you?
Find my stuff. Follow me on Twitter at Endon13. Stuff at the usual places. Numberfire, Rotoviz, Player Profiler, and 4for4.
I am at Mindy7. Combine me at Waxing_Lyrical. Out on Wednesday, on Thursday was the Touchdown Review podcast. I spoke to Callum, Thomas, Taib, and Joe from all things from Munich to Miami. Give it a listen, give it a review, please, as with this. But you're already listening to this, so just give it a review, because you're obviously listening, because otherwise you wouldn't hear my voice. Oh my god, I'm talking too much.
Please shut up.
Neil, it's Auf Wiedersehen from us. We'll see you all later. These top guys are out.